Good afternoon. I'd like to adjourn the the Board of Supervisors regular meeting for September 3rd. Just to let everyone know, Supervisor Carney is not available for the day session, but he will be joining us this evening. Everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Moment of silence. Thank you. We all have the agenda. If I could have a motion.
I'll put forward a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, going into presentations, we have Dr. Grimsley, School Superintendent.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, members of the board. It is another beautiful day in Rappahannock County. New school year has started. Oh, it's been great. We're pleased to report we've had a pretty smooth start of the school year. A few weeks in, almost a month. Students and staff are thrilled to be back together, and if you've attended any of our athletic events thus far, you can definitely see that spirit is in the air and it's contagious. The Headwaters Foundation has successfully launched the first week of the after-school enrichment program. This program has just become such an essential part of the experience of our students. So many dedicated staff and volunteers offer such awesome workshops this year: home economics, cooking, life skills, sports and nutrition, arts and crafts, dance, science and STEM or STEAM, agriculture, homework help, and more. Sept students have specialized fluency, literacy, comprehension, storytelling, public speaking, and group reading that's provided by one of our very own teachers as a piece of the READ expansion by Miss Abigail Berry. And additionally, this year, Sept students will be paired with a senior citizen that's connected with the Rapp Senior Center for some good old-fashioned letter writing pen pal fun. And in this collaboration and in preparation for receiving these letters, likely, which will be in cursive, Sept students will be working on cursive and penmanship as part of the collaboration. So thank you to the Headwaters Foundation and the community volunteers who keep this essential after-school program going. Fall sports are underway, like I said. We do have our third in a row Friday Night Lights this Friday. So if you haven't been to one, please come by. It's been really well attended and great spirit, great weather. We hope you've seen our new calendar of events page linked on our webpage. I also put it in my report that's on BoardDocs. So please, you can see all the upcoming events in a more user-friendly format. And the RCPS happenings and highlights page has also been updated as well. And also new to our website is the new Hot Topics webpage, where we will post current information about various topics of interest. Right now, our back-to-school bulletin is available there for families with all the useful information needed to begin the school year strong. Coming very soon will be a new podcast called The Soup Scoop. So we'll also be talking about current issues, interviewing different people, including students, taking questions and suggestions from the community about future topics of interest. So please let me know if you have any ideas for discussion topics, or even if you want to come and be interviewed. That'd be a lot of fun. So we'd love to have you. We thank you so much for your continuous support of the school system and for your collaborative efforts in ensuring operational efficiency and capital needs that are being met. I look forward to discussing possibilities for our elementary school roof and maybe some future HVAC needs this year. By the way, we have received 2 of the 3 gently used buses from the surplus, the Chesapeake surplus already, and they're in great shape, so we're really excited to get those on the road. The last should be coming within the next couple of weeks. And the 2 brand new buses that you all procured last year should be here by the February timeframe is what we're looking at. So thanks again for all of your support. We're looking forward to a great year. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions?
I know, I feel like the week that the state looks at the bus ridership is approaching.
It is.
Is that this month or next?
It's in October. Second week of October.
Second week in October. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Dr. Grimsley, very quickly,
Yes, sir.
a couple of months ago, we had a very candid telephone conversation. And one of my questions related to comments I've received from some constituents who've noted over the years a relatively small number of our graduating class who have made commitments to four-year colleges relative to the overall size of the class. And you very helpfully explained to me a little bit about state policy regarding emphasis on the trades in addition to college preparatory work. And you don't need to discuss this today, but I think it would be useful if maybe at a future meeting you could talk a little bit about, from a high level perspective, what direction public schools like yours are getting from the state in this regard, because I do hear from quite a few constituents who raise that question with me. And I think in very simple terms, and it might not be necessarily a valid lens through which to view the composition of your graduating classes, but still in very simple terms, I think what some constituents have raised with me is a fundamental question of return on investment, and this notion that you would expect, not to say that every student is eager to go to college or will go to college, but rather that students are being provided ample opportunity to make these choices over the course of the career in the schools, and the extent to which taxpayer dollars are being leveraged to provide an open array of choices for our students. So, yeah, and you were very thoughtful in our discussion, and I think it would benefit, at least my constituents have raised this question with me, to hear directly from you kind of about how you see the world in this regard.
Oh, no, that's a fantastic question. I will make sure that's on a future agenda item and even have some information we can post about that, because you're absolutely right. Great timing. The Virginia Board of Education just met this week and did their final review of high-quality work-based learning requirements for all high schools. So it's even going to get even more profound in that respect. So it's going to be a great topic to talk about, and a big shift continuously toward, providing essential trainings in all areas of life readiness, not just college preparatory, but also filling all the 550,000 openings in trades, skilled trades that we have. So,
and since he's not here to defend himself, I'll take issue with Mr. Carney's emphatic statement that he's the only one who's attended Rappahannock County Public Schools. In fact, he attended more private school than I did. I'm K through 12 public educated, and I had a choice after taking welding and metal shop and wood shop and learning to type. I had a choice, and I happened to go to college and then go on to graduate school. And so I think all I would ask, without getting into the weeds of how you operate your school system, is that we have a full understanding of how public tax dollars are being utilized to give our students, whatever their future plans are, all the choices in the world.
oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have to. I'll be happy to provide some stats that show, I believe, Laurel Ridge was where the majority of students, percentage-wise, chose to attend.
They did.
I'll just point out, since we're talking about return on investment, that in the state of Virginia, at Laurel Ridge, if you come and you maintain a certain GPA, then you have an automatic transfer into certain state schools. BMI, UVA, and William & Mary they're among three of the harder. Many of the other bigger schools participate in that auto transfer. So I would be willing to wager that lots of the students who are choosing the two-year route are also looking at that ultimate four-year plan, but they're doing what we call the 2+2 model. So they're coming in and they're paying not even half the price, because if some of them qualify for needs-based and G3 funds, they are getting that education for free, the first 2 years free. And then they're transferring on to the UVAs, to the Virginia Techs, the JMUs, the GMUs, what have you. Regarding the trades, I will tell you, Many employers are abandoning degree requirements. They are asking for more credentials. So again, while we're talking about return on investment, you come and you take a trades class, and then that translates to a job. When we're talking about return on investment, how many of your teachers are still paying off their teacher loans? Okay, I can tell you, we are getting ready to spotlight a Rappahannock student who participated in the Trades Academy because he has gone on to the next level. I happened to see him. I said, "Hey man, how's it going? How's life after high school?" And he said, "Great, I'm buying the big toys, I'm working, I'm doing all the things."
Yeah.
So I'll be happy to provide that information for you as you continue to answer those questions. So for those who are questioning, why aren't people going to 4-year? It's definitely a more layered. There are many layers to that. And I think when some of our students find the 4-year expensive, it's smart of them. We're teaching them fiscal responsibility, and they're looking at all of their options. So, that's my gig.
It would be a data point to know how many graduates go immediately on to 2-year, how many graduates go on to 4-year, and then of those 2-year, those that choose the 2-year route, how many eventually go on to a 4-year degree or beyond that.
And those are the questions superintendents are asking. We want to know more about persistence rates after that,
Yeah.
when they go off into the ether and we only have certain reporting tools we can use. So those are pieces, we know their initial plans, what they plan to do when they leave us, and those change quite often, as we know. But those are pieces that the Clearinghouse and College Board and also the VCCS are also working to connect all those dots for us. So I'm hoping to have a lot more real-time data on that. I did provide the Planning Commission last week with a chart that does update for the past, how many years, all those plans throughout up to date, so you can see that.
And I just want to say I'm grateful to have Ms. Comer as a colleague for 2 reasons. One, for the insight she brings from her very accomplished career at Laurel Ridge, and also because she, unlike anyone else on the board, including Mr. Carney, is the only board member here who has a child in the public school system. Now, that's not to take
Both
away
of mine
any,
graduated,
I know, but
but they were dedicated.
from a
to school
practical
systems of which I am very proud.
right. So I think I appreciate Ms. Comer's comments, and her perspective is very valid.
Hey, listen, you want to look at where worlds collide. I'm a 100% private school educated adult. I have 2 100% public school educated children. One of them went the trades route. One of them went to a 4-year college.
Awesome.
It's all good.
Awesome.
Do what is right for you and your family. They are interesting data points. But at the end of the day, these are all the decisions we need to make for ourselves and for our families. What I hated to see this year was the incredible animosity that some people brought out in the attempt to try to advocate for public schools. It felt like they were attacking private schools,
No.
which was completely uncalled for, and I know not your intention.
Absolutely
So
not.
always appreciated. We got a lot of people here today for good stuff. So I want to talk about money with you.
Okay.
So maybe let us know what the plan is for next year at the next meeting, because I see we're not hiring anyone to help us find money. So I'm really concerned. I won't be sitting here next year, but I will be paying taxes next year. And I'm very worried about where we're headed because we're already in a hole and it's not getting any shallower.
No, smart, and the state advocacy efforts are not stopping, they just may look different. So I will say that at this point.
Well, we need to know. So maybe next month, that would be a great topic to
I mean, I'm
present
happy
on.
to elaborate.
We got a lot of
but-
people here
okay,
today.
keep
I
it
don't want to
short,
hold them
gotcha.
up, but I do
Whatever you
think,
want to know, yes.
I think the money for next year.
It's always on my mind.
We got to get on it. You know we do.
Oh, we started getting on it as soon as the last budget session ended.
Okay, great.
Don't worry about that.
And I think the questions I had with my school board representative with regards to how the state may look upon large school systems and small school systems exactly the same when it comes to administrative burdens and reporting and all that other good stuff. So I think next time around, if we could talk to what is required of a school system and how many of your folks are doing kind of double time in
Absolutely.
multiple positions and that kind of thing, I think that would be great.
And by then, our new org chart page with all the job descriptions and everything should be live. We're almost there. We're really close. So that'll also give a point where you all can see everything a lot more transparently.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. We are moving into the presentation on life-saving efforts. And I'm going to read this first. Oh, it is printed? Probably is.
I hope the baby comes back up for the presentation. She fusses a lot less than some of the adults we've had in here, so I hope she'll come back up.
All right. We are recognizing 2 life-saving events, so I'm going to read one and then the other incident back to back. On July 6th, the Rappahannock County 911 Center received a call regarding a male who was unconscious and unresponsive in his chair. Communications officers Vicki Miller and Brandon Stroop immediately sprang into action, providing CPR instructions to the caller and dispatching emergency responders. Deputy Robbie Fincham arrived on scene and took over CPR until the arrival of ALS 1400 and volunteer EMS personnel from Washington Station. Thanks to this rapid and coordinated response, the patient survived the cardiac event and was breathing and conscious when he was transferred to the ambulance for transport to the hospital. Incident number 2, on July 18, the same dedicated shift was working when the 911 center received another emergency call, this time regarding a male experiencing an allergic reaction. Communications Officer Miller provided EpiPen administration instructions, while Communications Officer Brandon Stroop began dispatching emergency providers. Sheriff Compton and Deputy Robbie Fincham were en route when the subject went into cardiac arrest. Communications Officer Miller immediately began providing CPR instructions to the caller, guiding them through several rounds of chest compressions until Sheriff Compton arrived on scene. Sheriff Compton took over hands-on only CPR, while Deputy Fincham, who arrived moments later, assisted with bag ventilation. ALS 1400, along with volunteers from Washington, Flint Hill, Sperryville, and Chester Gap, assisted in care and prepped the patient for transport by helicopter. The patient began breathing on his own and was responsive when Air Care 4 transported him to Winchester Medical Center. The personnel we're going to recognize, and I think we'll do them one at a time.
However you want.
Sure.
I think we'll want a photo of that.
Photo with everybody up here. Okay, that's a good idea. So if the following would please come up. Communications Officer Vicki Miller. Communications Officer Brandon Stroop. Deputy Robbie Fincham. And Sheriff Compton. Life-saving, keep doing it, and I know how hard it must be at dispatch to help the person on the other end, so congratulations and thank you so very much for all. Our hearts are with you. All right. Our next presentation is from Evan Childress with Shenandoah National Park.
Just follow that, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Not saving lives, but
Hopefully some brook trout.
yeah. So, hi, I'm Evan Childress. I'm the Chief of Natural and Cultural Resources at Shenandoah National Park. Here to basically say hi, make connections, make sure that we have the lines of communication open and that you are all aware that you can reach out with any concerns, any ongoing issues that you feel like are not resolved at any time. I sit on the parks leadership team, and as a team, we're trying to get out to all the county boards and governments to make sure that we have these connections, and we're trying to send the people that live in those communities when we can. And I live right here in Rappahannock, so here I am representing the park. You can also always reach out to Tracy Stakely, who is our superintendent, at any time with concerns if you have them. So that said, I do have some minor updates from the park to share today. And I also want to commend the county for some of the things that you're doing. You know, we view Rappahannock County as an exemplary park neighbor. Going back decades and decades, the county has had forward-thinking land use policies and has codified the county's support for access to trailheads within the county, and most recently has adopted a new dark skies policy that we are very much in support of. And in fact, the park is likely going to seek dark skies park status itself, and that kind of action really helps us in our efforts to preserve the rural character of the area. And I view it as mutually beneficial to the park and the county to have that kind of a feel in this area, that tourists come to Rappahannock County, tourists come to the park, and they like to do both together also. So I think that we share a lot in terms of our goals, and we appreciate your efforts to maintain the rural character of this area. So thank you. So a few little updates from the park, and I'm happy also, I'm interested in hearing any concerns or comments that you guys have about things that are ongoing or topics that you'd like to learn more about from the park. So this is just sort of an opening play. So the first topic, and I know that this is, I heard that maybe this was elsewhere on the agenda today, and I know that there are other discussions about it, but the First Energy power line that goes across the park, they are planning to do a rebuild on that line in the coming years, and the park role in that, I just want to make sure that is clear, and we are in discussions with them about that rebuild. They do hold a deeded easement to build and maintain electrical infrastructure across the park, so they have a land right there that was part of the package when the park was established, right? So that doesn't belong to the park, and they have the right to do that. And we are working with them to make that cleared area slightly wider. I believe it's 5 to 10 feet on either side of that that is currently forest. So that sort of cleared area will be wider, and the poles will be slightly taller, so that they can put in steel poles that they don't have to replace in that challenging mountain terrain. So we are working with them to get them the permits and environmental compliance that's required for that. But that really is a First Energy project.
If I could interrupt, First Energy will be at the November meeting with an update.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Jeff Henry's off the hook. He's
Let's see, so the next topic is fall traffic. So I know that this is a recurring issue with folks trying to get across the mountain on 211 and running into long lines of traffic. Our acting chief law enforcement ranger, Eric Yount, met with Gary and some of the VDOT representatives as well. And so I'm hoping that we'll be on the same page with that. And please let us know of any updates that you have on that. We are in the process of issuing a new contract for the private company that runs the concessions in the park. So you may have heard about this last year when there was a request for bids and a selection made. But with the turnover in administration, there were some changes to some of the policies that changed the economic opportunity and would likely change the amount and quality of the bids. And so it was deemed that that prior process was not valid. And so we are in the midst of a second process to select a concessionaire that they run the hotels and the restaurants and all of those kinds of things within the park. They are run by a private company, and so we will get bids in the coming months for that, and there will be a changeover in who is running those operations on January 1st of 2027. So a little delay on that since you probably last heard about it. And then the final item is just that we're trying to re-energize conversations with descendants of people that were removed from the parks, and in particular the folks that still need access to get onto the park to maintain cemeteries and pay respects to their ancestors. So if you hear from constituents about issues like that, we would love to get connected with folks. We are trying to mend some of those relationships and establish better policies to support folks in connecting with their family history on the park. And with that, I am interested in if there's anything else that you would like to hear about the park. Yeah.
Anyone?
I do.
Yep.
Evan, you're a treasure to have in the county, really. You're my neighbor, you're my friend, and a fish guy, so it doesn't get any better than that. My first question is on the fish front. I'm just wondering if you could update us on the native brook trout fishery in the park. We've seen drought, we've seen raging floods, and those tough little native fish somehow survive. And I'm afraid to ask, but how are these brookies doing in the park right now overall?
Yeah, so we've done quite a bit of work to try to figure that out, and over the last couple of decades, we have seen some pretty concerning trends in brook trout. So, especially at lower elevations in small streams, like the Rush River, for example, or Jordan River, places like that in Rappahannock County, we have seen major declines, 95%. North Fork of the Thornton River also has declined to that level. So yeah, a lot of the Rappahannock streams actually fall into that category of major declines over the last couple of decades. Things are looking a little bit better at higher elevations, so like higher up in the Piney River or at the top of the North Fork Thornton. They're looking a little bit better. The best places are in the middle of the park where we have the tallest mountains. This year, the data aren't totally in yet, but the last 2 years of drought hit the populations hard, and the major floods, like you said, are looking bad. The initial sort of word from the folks that are out there looking is that there are very few juveniles out there this year again. So there are a few places like the Rapidan River where there are a lot, but those are the exception. So. Yeah, not a great outlook, unfortunately.
I was just getting excited for the fall. It's such a great time here to fish. I know that you were at a recent Shenandoah National Park Trust event, and one of the main thrusts of the Park Trust effort is to acquire adjacent lands to help the Park Service expand the footprint of the national park. Do you have, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, I'm just wondering, do you have any sense of either completed land acquisitions in terms of total acreage in recent years and any pending significant land acquisitions that will add to the overall acreage in the park?
I don't have the figures on that, and I know that there are not any pending acquisitions within Rappahannock County. There was one parcel at the head of the Hazel River Trail that the trust acquired, but is not going to give to the park, at least for the next decades. While there's basically an owner that wants to hold on to that for a while. So, but there was concern about public access to the Hazel River Trail, and so the trust acquired that parcel. The trust is sort of operates in its own space on these issues. The park is not allowed to acquire lands itself based on the establishing legislation. And so they do inform us when they are interested in acquiring land and ask whether we would be amenable to accepting it. But they are out there kind of doing their own work on this. The only parcel that I'm aware of that is in process is one, I think it's in Warren County, but it might be in Page, it's kind of on the line, Browntown area. Couple hundred acres that the landowner actually just donated to the trust, so, yep.
It's exciting. And then also on the Shenandoah National Park Trust front, you might or might not know, and I just wanted to mention her name in the context of your brief discussion about cemeteries and the descendants of those who were resettled out of the park. Katie Powell at Virginia Tech, who's a friend of my wife's and mine, she's written some really profound books on sort of the resettlement issues. She's a native of Madison County, and as soon as you were discussing that, I hope that you, as the chief of cultural resources, and I certainly can help put you in touch with. I hope you'll get in touch with Katie to let her know sort of this sort of rebirth of this effort to focus on folks in adjacent localities who are descendants of those families, because Katie is really awesome, and if you don't know her already, you'll want to know her and get her involved, so I can put you in touch with her.
That'd be great,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I don't know her personally, so.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Childress, first of all, I wanted to say, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you sitting there today. You've been kind enough to come out and speak to us before as a private citizen, and I didn't recognize you today.
No worries.
But I did have a question about people visiting and maintaining cemeteries that are now located in the park. Does the park have a policy where those families can enter without paying? Because
Yes.
that's something I hear people saying, well, if we want to go visit our cemeteries, we have to pay for the privilege. But,
That is not the case. They
Okay.
are not required to pay.
so what does that look like practically when people are going to enter the park? Is there a process for that, or do
There
they just
is.
have to tell people?
Yes, so they should reach out to park staff to ensure that we notify the entrance station staff that they'll be coming and can make sure that they are given free entry.
Okay.
So yeah, folks that are interested in getting to the park should reach out to us, or with any questions about cemeteries, about access, about maintenance,
Okay.
anything. We are ready to talk.
That
So,
sounds good. And you would be a good point of contact for
Yes.
that? Okay, that's great. I really appreciate that, and I think a lot of other people will as well. Thank you very much.
I see, you've been with them since 2019,
yes,
so I assume you're very well acquainted with Claire Comer from Page
Yes.
County,
I,
her family is a family that was resettled.
yes.
So I know that she works very, very hard on that project. I assume that she's still a resource. I know she's retired, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been a great advocate for
yeah.
rebuilding that relationship. The park has not always been super respectful.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Anyway, just making sure you knew that name because she's
Oh, yeah.
right over the mountain.
Yes, she's a great resource.
My only question that may not be one for you is, I know the past couple of years anyway, there's been controlled burns up in the Great Meadows area. And I'm just wondering, I am concerned about areas like Chester Gap and where the park comes into that area and all the down trees. And is there any other areas other than Great Meadows? Is there anything north of that you all do control burns?
So we are rebuilding our fire program and trying to do more prescribed burns. The priority areas are around Big Meadows, but also in the South District, so the southern part of the park in Augusta County and Albemarle. Those are the areas that have drier oak forests that are more prone to burn and more fire adapted. And so those are the kind of low-hanging fruit and where we're focused first to try to reduce fuels and do some prescribed burns to sort of limit impacts, especially along the southern boundary and adjacent to private lands. The forests in the northern part of the park in Rappahannock County tend to be wetter, and especially on the east side, and so They are less prone to burn. That doesn't mean they can't. You know, around Hazel, you know, that was a giant fire. So, so it can happen under extreme circumstances, but they are less able to respond well when they are burned, either for a prescribed burn or through natural wildfire or human-started wildfire. And they are less likely to go up. When they do, it can be really bad. Luckily, we've had good rain this year.
Yeah, right. All right, yep.
Just, you had mentioned the concessionaire is going to change over.
Yes.
It seemed to read or imply like the current concessionaire wouldn't be bidding.
Oh, I did not
Might
mean
not
to
change.
imply that. It might not. It will
Okay.
change over to a new contract.
Got it.
It may be the same concessionaire, it may be a different one.
I was gonna ask the same
Thank you.
thing.
Sorry, I was
I
not
don't
clear on
want to
that
be the
point.
source of some rumor.
Yes,
Right.
no, that is not the case.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. We hope
Appreciate you
come
being
back.
here.
Yeah, great job.
Next, we have update from VDOT. It's their quarterly. Ben?
Good afternoon, Chairman Don Hayden, members of the board. I appreciate the opportunity today to present the VDOT quarterly report. My name is Ben Davison. I serve VDOT at the Warrenton Residency Office as the Assistant Resident Engineer for Land Use. There, I manage a team of engineers and inspectors for land development as well as issue permits for work that occurs in the right-of-way. September marks the beginning of the last stretch of summertime maintenance and construction activities for us as we make preparations to transition into wintertime activities. The work this summer, including mowing and paving and storm response and repairs, you may have seen an increase in lane closures and shoulder closures throughout the county. I appreciate y'all's patience with all of our work zones as our crews are working diligently to provide safe work zones and quality maintenance of the roadside and surface conditions. For summertime maintenance, the final cycle of primary mowing should occur in the October-November timeframe. We try to time that around the first frost, right when you're going to not necessarily have a lot of regrowth of vegetation after that mowing. Secondary road mowing operations such as routes with Route 600s, Route 700s, that effort is continuous kind of throughout the year. It should be finishing again in the October-November timeframe, around that frost timeframe. Recently, the weather's been very, very pleasant. The summer storms that we've responded to and continue to repair damages and remove debris from the right-of-way from. Part of those responses, the road closure at Route 653, Sycamore Ridge Road, it is still closed at this time. Work to repair this damaged structure will begin on September 8th. It should take about a week or so for the initial repairs and then a little bit of a lead time for concrete to cure that we're going to place in between each of the culverts. For those that are not aware, when the asphalt surface was removed from the crossing, it allowed water infiltration into the base stone, which allowed the culverts to be moved by the river. All of this work should be complete on or before October 1st. Again, we're planning to improve the resilience of that crossing through placing concrete in between each culvert structure. Debris removal continues in the county. A total of 1,114 cubic yards of vegetative debris, trees, different things that fell into the right-of-way, equivalent to about 140 dump truck loads, have been removed. Similar amounts with your neighboring areas, or similar efforts have occurred in your neighboring areas. The Marshall area, Fauquier County, for us, has been the most significantly impacted by those storms. For projects, Route 714 Kaiser Run Road is being reviewed for establish a speed limit on that road, since coming from a statutory 35 as a gravel road, now a hard surfaced rural rustic road. Then Route 626 Horton Hollow Road, the gravel section, the southern gravel section nearest Lizzie Mills Road, is planned to start construction this fall in the October timeframe, with plans to hard surface it in the spring of 2026. Design has started on Route 623, Pullins Bluff Road, for construction to start 2026. In the land use world, as mentioned previously, VDOT, the county, and National Park Service met to discuss plans for improved traffic flow at the Thornton Gap entrance to the park. During that meeting, we suggested ways to potentially a special event permit could be established to allow maintenance of traffic to occur on Route 211 to better separate through traffic from park traffic on 211. We see a lot of jockeying for lane position and there nearest the entrance. VDOT's committed to deploying message boards as we've done in the past. I think we're working to establish best locations for those to try to create awareness that the right lane is for park traffic, the left lane is for through traffic. In the June timeframe, VDOT issued permits to allow photo speed enforcement in the school zones there on Route 211 for both the elementary and high schools. My understanding is that work is underway. For other permits, All Points Broadband has applied for permits to install about 5.5 miles of parallel fiber within the public right-of-way. Their overall plan for the county appears to be a mix of both underground parallel fiber as well as overlash through existing middle mile infrastructure. We're working directly with them to provide comments on the sketches for their approval. And I think we're working on the second round at the moment that should be able to be approved here within the month. That concludes my presentation of our quarterly report. Again, I appreciate the opportunity to provide that to you. I'm happy to hear any questions or concerns that I can either address or take up.
Thanks a lot. We appreciate these quarterly updates. I wanted to talk both about one of the secondary roads in my district and also about the All Points Broadband project. Route 622, the upper stretch of Harris Hollow Road, I think you probably know from George Lee and David Jenkins, it got hit pretty hard in the flooding event. I would say as hard, if not harder than most places, with the exception maybe of Swindler Hollow. I talked with George Lee recently, and he indicated that a lot of work had been done. We'll call it maybe 3 to 3.5 miles out of the town of Washington on 622, but I know Evan Childers, who spoke earlier, who's a neighbor of mine, will tell you, and I certainly will tell you, that there are sections up there where there's still a significant drop from the roadbed into the shoulder that was washed away. So I just want to make sure, and there are also still some signs and cones and things indicating that maybe the work's not finished. Before we get to winter, I'm just hoping that maybe someone could circle back and make sure all of the areas that were washed away are filled and any big drops from the pavement onto the shoulders are taken care of. I'm especially concerned if we get a lot of snow and motorists can't see where the road ends and the shoulder begins, that someone could really do damage to their vehicle or worse. So if someone could just circle back on that upper stretch, I would say everywhere from, call it the cross street at Roberts Retreat, I think is the private lane there, or maybe even easier from Mount Marshall going all the way up to where Harris Hollow transitions into Gib Brown, and just make sure that gets a once over one more time. And then you mentioned mowing. Our road is a big draw for walkers and cyclists, and the grass is crazy, and I know you do your best to keep up during growing season, but I just want to make sure that we get a trim before the fall, and it sounds like we'll see that in October, November. On the All Points Broadband front, I think a lot of citizens perhaps are still in the mindset that our partner REC is the key partner in that fiber project in the county, and in fact, that's no longer the case because of this change from aerial to in the ground fiber. And to that end, I want to say a couple of things. Number one, we are excited to be your partner in this project. Number two, Our citizens are desperate for fiber, both from a public safety perspective and just a day-to-day living perspective. We don't have solid cell phone coverage. We don't have good landline infrastructure. We are absolutely in dire need of getting this fiber project done. I'm thrilled to have you as a partner along with All Points Broadband, because I think most citizens would agree. You guys do a really good job for us most of the time, and hopefully we express that enough from time to time. Here in holding you up as our partner, we want to celebrate that partnership, and we want to be able to count on you to get these permits processed with All Points Broadband as quickly and efficiently as possible. We have been put through the ringer because of a breakdown in communication between Rappahannock Electric Co-op and All Points Broadband, and we trust that that same hurdle will not present an impediment to the quick start and hopefully quick completion of our fiber network in the county. We're counting on you. We're happy to have you as a partner. We want to celebrate this partnership, and we look forward to seeing fiber going in the ground very soon. And we thank you for your role in making sure that happens.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I wondered if there were any developments on the two topics we discussed last month, the wall in Sperryville at the property that's in the VDOT right of way, and also that driveway in the turn lane. I know you all have been working on those, and I was wondering if there were any. I get asked about those two things all of the time, and I know people are probably tired of me asking about them, but it's because I am asked constantly. People are really worried about the situation that those two structures have presented.
Sure, and to address the stone wall, we recently met with our member of the Office of the Attorney General's office, as well as the property owner and their attorney, to review the two survey plats that were created there. There's not necessarily some discrepancy in the property lines, but so much as the location of the wall. We're working with the property owner to try to figure out a solution there. It is apparent the wall has been built into the right of way. It's a question of how much and what the impacts to the property owner may be, but certainly it has drawn a pile of attention. There's no doubt about it.
Well, and honest mistakes happen, and
Sure.
I'm not pointing a finger. I just get asked questions, and so I need to ask them too.
Sure.
So I appreciate that. That's a great update there.
Absolutely, and I guess I don't necessarily know all I can really describe right now is that it's in process, but what I'd say is the wall's been, does appear to be by survey plat located in the right of way without a permit to do so. How we address it can be difficult, as you can imagine.
Okay, yeah, I know, I imagine it can be.
And then the driveway across the way, we've made the property owner aware of it. Again, another somewhat sticky situation where the driveway appears to have been built
That's
previous owner.
correct. It wasn't
didn't
built by
sell
the
it.
current owner.
And so the limitations of what that property owner is able to do, the location is not ideal for sure. If requested to permit it, we would likely not permit an entrance there because of its location. And but again, working with them, the wall's been the priority first because of the
Turning radius impacts, yeah.
correct. The operation traffic there kind of is more dependent on it. Not to say the driveway doesn't need a fair amount of attention as well.
I just worry because I know people from out of town are using that property, and there's a Airbnb on the property, and they don't know it's not safe.
I'm familiar with it, correct. If you
So-
have unfamiliar drivers, you need to plan for the best.
So I appreciate your help with all those situations and keeping us updated. And great news about the Sycamore Ridge Bridge. I know a lot of people, including myself, will be happy to know that's back in place. Something to look forward to for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a few items. Some are Mr. Nesbitt conversations that I will broach with you, Ben, and then you guys can decide. But recently, we had discussed the speed limit at the top of Chester Gap on 522. And there are two turns basically onto 522. One is not as difficult as the other to see the person coming over the hill. But if they're going 60 miles an hour and you're turning, especially if you're turning towards the vehicle, the speed in which you have to get on the road is pretty darn quick. And we just recently had a severe accident where a motorcyclist was hit by a car and had to be transported by helicopter because it was that bad of an accident. And I've been asked if speed strip or rumble strips or something just to slow the traffic down. It's almost like a hidden driveway entrance as far as I'm concerned. If you don't know it's there, it's dangerous. So I don't know if we can take a look at that again in some way.
This would be the Route 610 Chester Gap entrance to 522, or is?
The entrance
Same-
at 522.
Okay,
Yep.
yes, ma'am.
This most recent accident happened, someone I think was turning either into or out of Virginia Pines. And it was a pretty bad accident.
Yeah, I think it was motorcyclists on 522 who were hit by motors
turning.
pulling out.
Yeah. So I'd just like to think about that again if we could. The other one is, Mr. Nesbitt and I had some email traffic about fodder stack, basically from Deering Road and fodder stack to Resettlement Road. At some point, not too long ago, the speed limit was lowered from 45 to 35 from Resettlement to 522 on fodder stack. I've had a couple of citizens ask me that basically they back out of their driveway onto Fodder Stack Road just past Eileen Road. So between Eileen and Deering is really what I'm talking about. To me, with all the windy curviness in there, I would think 35 would make sense in that stretch as well. But just want to bring that to your attention.
Okay.
Yeah, the section you mentioned was lowered after we requested a study of that section.
Okay. I thought there was a study, but I didn't hear on that one. And then wanted to just check in. I know Mr. Nesbitt and I did a drive up to Chester Gap to see where the school bus turns around. And he was going to check into paving that one area where the bus does do the turnaround. And I don't know if there's been any movement on that.
I'm not familiar with if that's been scheduled yet or not, or if that's something that we're trying to set aside, either a maintenance style project or a
Okay.
county safety project of some sorts. Certainly to try to provide, maybe not necessarily right now, but in muddy conditions, severe weather conditions, a place where they can get turned around.
The neighbors would really like, they've harmed their vehicles because of the ruts and everything that occur. And I would like to be able to give them a heads up when it's going to happen, because obviously they're not going to be able to drive out if you pave it all in one day. So, thank you very much. Appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Ms. Comer, do you have anything?
I don't, unless there is any new data about wrong way drivers on 211. I know of at least one incident this summer, and it did come from Colvin Road. So I do believe the problem stems in Culpeper. I'm going to point the finger to Culpeper. But, I know everyone has eyes on that. I don't know if there's any data telling us how the signs are working, if they're working.
We're getting,
I know you all met last night.
yeah, we met last night at our public safety coordinating body. And so at our next quarterly meeting, which I guess would be
In about 3 months.
probably in December.
You can meet more frequently if you want to.
Yes, you can.
Oh, thanks,
Actually,
thanks, Christine.
it's very likely, actually, given Chester Gap
Yeah.
discussion.
So we are getting Janie Jenkins, Lieutenant Jenkins at dispatch is going to pull some updated data on wrong way drivers. And I know we had talked to Mark when he came to one of our public safety meetings about kind of some stepped up camera-based way to take a look at Colvin in particular. And I think this anecdote that Ms. Comer just raised is critically important to emphasize that, in fact, there's something odd about Colvin Road just visually for motorists that is causing a lot of the difficulty, and I wouldn't pin it on Culpeper necessarily, but something, we'll blame the intersection regardless of where it's
There
located.
you go, there you go.
I think that intersection's been redone recently though, hasn't it?
We have a sign sketch in order to redo, so there was a previous update 2 or 3 years ago, but there is a current sign plan out that's out for installation. That work has not been completed yet.
Okay.
What I would say to address why that's such a unique intersection, Rappahannock wide on 211, what's noticeable for us is other 4 lanes in our region, 29 or Route 3 in Culpeper, have a little bit higher vehicle count as far as if you were to pull up to the, especially at nighttime conditions, look left, right, you might see some headlights, taillights give you a visual cue of the direction of
Interesting.
flow. 211, there are many times a day, there may not be anybody that way or that way. So
Interesting.
That's right.
the idea is that there is a special need for the signage to give you that cue of there's no traffic to tell you, but the signage is one way this way, one way that way. So
Well, Clevenger's Corner certainly is helping with the traffic load on 211,
no doubt
but we
about
don't
that.
want more of that.
Right. Those Culpeper folks, that's it.
Culpeper, right.
But yes, ma'am, that is on
That is
the
a
radar
Culpeper,
to improve the signage there and then continue to participate in monitoring that in the future. Yes, ma'am.
That's
Thank you.
interesting.
I would be remiss if I didn't mention the one thing, I'm so sorry to take a second turn, but the thing that we talked about at the beginning of the meeting, especially since we have a representative from the park here in the room when you so graciously acknowledged, leaf looker season will be on us before we know it. And so we face once again the challenge of communication, if there are backups or any impediments to people using the roadways throughout the county when it backs up from the park. So I know this has been an ongoing discussion, so I would just emphasize, please, the need for open lines of communication, especially on the weekends, which I know everybody wants their weekends. But I heard that even this past weekend with the Labor Day traffic, there were some backups. So I just want to make sure that we don't take our eyes off of that and plan accordingly, because I have a feeling, I hope some beautiful tourist-filled days are coming our way, and we will see a lot of people safely come and go and put a lot of money in the county coffers. And people will say, wow, that was such easy travel. I can't wait to go back to Rappahannock County.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time.
Great presentation.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mark.
All right, next is the electrical substation regulation. Sarah Parmalee,
Yes. Hello.
welcome.
Hi. You all have not seen me yet. I'm Sarah Parmalee, representing the Piedmont Environmental Council. I started with PEC just over 3 years ago, initially just covering Culpeper County. So I hear your Culpeper comments. But this summer I've also added Rappahannock to my jurisdiction. So I also do land use issues with Rappahannock, which is why you're seeing me now. But today we're going to talk to you about substations and offer some recommendations about them. I'm sure you all are familiar with PEC. We're over 50 years old, 501c3 nonprofit, founded in part by residents in Rappahannock County. We cover our 9-county service area, which includes Loudoun County, which is why we know a lot right now about data centers and transmission lines. If you could scroll down, keep going. Yep. That's our mission. Keep going. That's our service territory. Keep going. All right, substations. So I'm just going to give a brief overview of substations. You probably know most of this. They're part of the transmission distribution system. They're typically used to convert power from one voltage to another, so it can be either fed into a grid, like utility scale solar, site needs to translate that power to a different voltage so it can be transmitted, or to pull power off transmission lines so it can be distributed to local users, like the substation at Sperryville. Today, we are seeing a lot of new substations located on data center sites, in part because data centers use so much electricity. We're seeing a lot of them actually included in the initial concept layouts for different data centers. But we're also seeing substations as a part of transmission line expansion, because you do need a substation to basically join two transmission lines if you're going to have a junction somewhere. But yeah, we are seeing an unprecedented number of substations, both associated with data centers and just associated with general transmission expansion. The last count that I saw was we have around 200 new ones coming to Virginia, the majority of those, of course, being in Loudoun. A lot of these are going to be around 10 acres. You do have some smaller ones, 2-acre substations. There's one in Culpeper town that's about a 2-acre substation. I think the one in Sperryville, also a 2-acre substation. But we are seeing bigger and bigger ones just because the energy loads that they are being asked to handle are bigger. And these are also very expensive. Those are full of converters, which are very expensive. So in some of the recent SEC filings that I've read, it seems like around $10 to $11 million per substation is the typical price tag associated for that. If you could scroll down to the next one. All right, so the reason why we are talking to you about substations today, the reasons for concern, is because that red line is one of the lines that runs through Rappahannock, northern Rappahannock, on its way to the Morrisville substation in Fauquier. So it comes from Front Royal, goes through, crosses Rappahannock, crosses the northern part of Culpeper, gets into Fauquier, and that line is anticipated to be overloaded to the point of voltage collapse by peak loads of 2020 to 2029, due in large part to demand at the far end of that, being Data Center Alley, Prince William County. So, and your neighbors have the potential for a lot of new energy demand as well. Culpeper has approved over roughly 2 gigawatts of new data center demand, but they're trying to close the door and keep that all that they have approved. They just passed a very important zoning text amendment requiring a conditional use permit for data centers last night. So very excited about that signal. Fauquier has not approved as much electrical load as Culpeper, but it does have the opportunity to do so. You might have heard about the Gigaland data center that was supposed to come to the Fauquier board in September. That application has withdrawn, but there are 3 others right in that Morrisville, Remington area that could potentially put more demand on this line that runs through Rappahannock. And we're worried that, if you put a lot of load on that line, that makes that line that much more likely to be the one that gets upgraded and expanded, or have a new line put in. So if you want to scroll down, actually, I included that map. Next map. Yep, so you can see that's kind of the junction where that line comes in, and you have in Culpeper that cluster of data centers down there. Fauquier, not all of those are approved, and hopefully they won't be, but there is that potential if you want to keep going. Okay, so our general advice to you is to not be the weakest link in the chain when it comes to your zoning language surrounding substations. Fauquier and Culpeper both require special exceptions or CUPs for public utilities, so that if Dominion wants to route a substation through there, the county is going to have a say in that. Rappahannock does not explicitly define substations under your definition of electrical generation facilities or plants, even though elsewhere in your text it says that substations are not exempt from regulation, and under state code, substations are not exempt from some degree of local regulation. Let's see. And, requiring a CUP or a special exception, may not stop Dominion routing a new line or choosing to expand an existing line going through Rappahannock. But we think that, by not making it easy, you're offering yourself at least the opportunity for more input and potentially, by not being the weakest link or the easiest route, a little bit of protection. So if you want to keep going. So that's your language right there. Again, you specifically do not exempt substations. That's great. Keep going. All right, so basically our recommendation is very simple. Either include substations in your definition of electrical generating plants or facilities, or just create a new category for electricity substations or, major electrical infrastructure, some combination of those words, and require a special exception in all zoning categories. As your staff has pointed out very accurately, the land use impacts of a substation are different than most electrical generating facilities. So some of the requirements associated with electrical generating facilities might not necessarily be appropriate for a substation, such as the 1,000-foot step back. Some other standards that localities in Virginia have used that you might consider: Loudoun County requiring a special exception and a 100-foot setback. They also have buffering standards, a mix of evergreen and deciduous shrubbery, standards on fencing, things like that. They also have certain residential and recreational zoning districts where substations are not allowed at all. Henrico County, somewhat similar, bigger setback for residential lots, smaller setbacks for non-residential lots. And then Fairfax County, this language is not yet adopted, but it seems pretty good. I'd be surprised if they didn't adopt it. It's similar to Loudoun's in that they require a 100-foot setback from residential lots, but they are also requiring a noise study be submitted with the special exception application, which is it's a new thing, just because these substations do emit a bit of a hum, and that was something that previously wasn't thought about, but now that we're potentially getting 200 more of them, and much closer quarters to residential and commercial areas and areas frequented by people, that noise concern is starting to be a little bit more forward. So that's kind of it. What questions do you have for me?
Well, I just mostly wanted to thank you for coming to address the board today. Just so everyone is aware, last month when I got back into town, I unfortunately wasn't able to attend the PEC talk at the library. I was out of town, but it certainly created a lot of buzz. And so I called Sarah when I got home and I said, you were so kind to address the Planning Commission last year. There's a lot of concern in the air about how to get our hands around data centers and what we as a county should be doing. Is there a school of thought, or has the school of thought changed? Whereas last year it was hands off, we don't need to do anything. This seems to be the current recommendation on how to kind of start to get our arms around the data center challenge, we'll call it, for lack of a better, we don't want to go too negative, because we need them. We all use cell phones, we need them. We just don't necessarily want them in certain places. How to get our arms around the data center challenge is to start by looking at all of the arteries that are needed for those structures and how to control those aspects to get a handle on the data centers themselves, and to lessen the impacts of the whole process should it ever roll out in Rappahannock County. So that's why I asked Sarah to come and speak to us today. So gracious of you to come in person. And my question today to my fellow board members, and you don't have to answer this right now, but
And there is an agenda item.
there is an agenda item late, and you don't even have to answer it today. But is this something which you think should be a priority for the Planning Commission? And is this the kind of approach you would favor the planning commission to take rather than addressing data centers head-on, which is not the current recommendation from PEC for the county to pursue. So, so that's my take on the matter. In some ways, I would like to take on data centers head-on and set the rules and be done with it. I can see the wisdom in this approach too, though, and I would defer to my fellow members of the board.
From what I understand, just in meetings that I've attended, Loudoun's got like 6 data centers that are still empty because they don't have power yet. And I've confirmed that with people in Loudoun, so I'm pretty confident that that's accurate. So my concern isn't about a data center in Rappahannock. My concern is that Dominion is going to come in and do what they did back in early 2000s, because I walked with the fluorescent light under the poles and, you know, how terrible the electric was, and we didn't want those. We didn't beat Dominion then. So I just have a, unfortunately, pessimistic view on can you beat an electric company who is powering all of these data centers?
Yeah, that is the question we are also asking, you know, and I don't know if you've been following the rate case with Dominion. Recently, I think today was day 2 of the in-person hearings, but this is about the rate case of Dominion. They first have their integrated resource plan, which says how we're going to provide the power, and then this is the rate case where they say this is how we're going to pay for it. And one of the things that we really pushed for in this rate case was making sure that since, you know, the energy usage from residential users, other commercial users in Virginia is pretty much flat and has been pretty much flat since around 2018. You know, these other users do not need to pay for the bulk of this new infrastructure, which is essentially going to have to double since we are essentially doubling our peak load. And that is one of our hopes, is that if by requiring the data centers to pay more for the transmission lines that they require, maybe they think a little bit more carefully before just saying, I would like a new 230 kV. But yeah, and you know, I don't think that having an ordinance, any ordinance, is going to protect you if that is the route that is chosen. This is just another tool in your toolbox to make it a little bit harder to get stepped on, and to give, you know, your public, your board, your planning commission the opportunity to offer more public input.
Thank you.
I was curious about your comment about PEC's recommendation for, I guess as you phrase it, not addressing the question of data centers head on. What, maybe fill in for me some of the context there.
Our interpretation of your zoning code is that data centers are not listed as an allowable use in any of your zoning districts. So right now, our interpretation is, and we'd be happy to just defer to your zoning administrator, is that data centers aren't allowed in Rappahannock County. You also don't necessarily have a large municipal water facility or resource, which is a big driver, especially since electricity is so short. You know, you don't have any of the major fiber thoroughfares or any of the dark fiber that allegedly exists places that's been a draw. You know, you have a very active and engaged public, which is also kind of, I think, is a good soft deterrent. So, you know, you're not offering any big tax incentives to try to draw data centers in. You don't have an economic development department that's going out and beating the bushes and going to these conferences and telling everybody that Rappahannock is the next place for business. So in many ways, you kind of have some natural deterrents in place that mean that, you know, you don't have friendly zoning, and it's going to be, there's not a reason why someone that I'm aware of right now would want to try to sneak a data center into a locality like this.
Sounds good to me.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you just said everything I was going to say. You know, data centers need water, power, flat land, fiber.
And
Now,
a community that wants it.
What's that?
And a community that wants it.
Right. the most poignant thing that you said was make it harder for them, make it harder for them. So that's really all I have to say about it. I mean, no one has inquired, right? We've not received.
We just, I think the last time that we got put into a frenzy before you were at PEC was a few of us on the board, I'll say in a somewhat spooky way, got unsolicited phone calls from utility scale solar developers. It's like, and almost to the point that the calls were disingenuous, like, hey, leaving a message like, hey, you didn't return my last call. Well, there was no prior call. Or, hey, I haven't heard your follow-up, but I want to touch base once again, never talked to you. And it was, they were actually there were people looking at parcels, I think over in the Amosville area. And, we scrambled, and it was, for me at least, and I was chairing the planning commission at the time, it was a little unsettling to find ourselves on our heels. And I just give that example to say, I appreciate you outlining just now sort of the de facto and de jure limitations on potential data center development in Rappahannock County. That is, from a practical, fact-based perspective, we don't offer anything that would, in terms of water or tax breaks, et cetera, nor does our zoning ordinance on its face even allow these as a use. But I would say that, and Art and Gary might correct me, but we're kind of in the same sort of, nothing to worry about position on solar farms, and yet the calls came and we moved forward with getting something on the books. So here, I appreciate that you've kind of whittled it down to cleaning up our zoning ordinance in tangible, identifiable ways that will even further preclude any inquiries on the data center front. But I also want to caution that we don't become complacent in this regard, because I know people who are in the data center business, and we all recognize there's money to be made, and this is not a place that our little population of like-minded folks ever want to see a data center built. So how do we, on the one hand, at least take advantage of what our zoning ordinance protects us against without being complacent?
Yeah, I appreciate the desire to, feel like you're being proactive about it. I think the nature of your zoning right now, I think, is a really good defense, because there's not a really good place for them. As Supervisor Comer referenced, they do want flat land and a lot of it right now. I would caution you against trying to make a zoning ordinance for data centers that is a ban in all but name, just because, we expect to see, as we saw with some of the utility scale solar discussion at the state level, when localities create an ordinance that is a ban in all but name, that gets cited as a reason to remove the ability for localities to turn those things down. And that's a situation we'd really like to avoid, especially since this is such a hot topic going into the next legislative session. So.
Well said.
And Art has a question for you, ma'am.
Hi, Chair. Art Goff, I'm their county attorney. I've got a question about, did PEC have a brief on like a model ordinance or something for substations that you could provide to me? And specifically with reference to Dylan's rules challenges, especially on something like a noise study requirement, how does that fit into 15.22283? Those kind of technical legal things, you have anything?
So I don't have one on me, but I'm happy to send you the information that I cited when building this presentation.
Okay, right. I believe you mentioned a court case.
Yes, there was a court case in 2015. Was it in Chesapeake County? that I can send to you. And essentially, the SEC acknowledged the locality's right to say no to the substation. The need was undeniable. It was going to have to go somewhere, but they allowed the county to say no in a limited capacity. So,
Yeah, and all I would say is if we're looking at model ordinances, I'm just gonna go on the record and say that the last place I'm gonna look for a model ordinance is Loudoun County.
that's why I included Fairfax.
You've got other options, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I included Fairfax's, and Fairfax honestly has been having this very discussion just because they've gotten so much pushback on substations that are popping up in residential areas. I will take another look at that, and I will send you what information I have.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Rachel.
Thank you for being here.
Really appreciate it, Sarah.
All right, at this time, we're moving into public comment. Anyone wishing to speak, please be recognized and come up and give us your name and your district. Yes, ma'am?
Those are good presentations. Sounds great.
Hi, Anita Ramos, Hampton District. Just quick, the whole broadband problem, it sounds like it's being solved. Thank heaven. I just want to say thank whoever has gotten it going the right way again. And if we had had GIS, this wouldn't have been a problem. And I'm still waiting for it. Regarding what we just heard from PEC, do something, ASAP, whatever works, make this a priority. I listened to the talk on Zoom that was at the library. It's frightening. And I live, in my other life, not far from Loudoun County, and I have driven by those 200 and some data centers, and some of them are where I used to fox hunt 25 years ago. It was beautiful country. I loved Loudoun. At one point in life, wanted to live there. I wouldn't begin to think about living there now. I'm so happy with how Rappahannock thinks and how Rappahannock tries to do the best to protect what it is. So thank you for everything you do. ASAP, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Anita.
Laura Grigsby, Hampton District. I'm married to a man who graduated from Rappahannock County High School. He was actually a school bus driver his senior year because they had student drivers during that time. And, and my father-in-law drove a school bus for Rappahannock County Public Schools, and all of my in-laws went to Rappahannock County Schools, and our son graduated from Rappahannock County Schools. So I have a lot of respect for public schools. I'm also a graduate, mostly, from a public school system. I got these school buses stuck in my brain. We started out sometime in the past, recently, where there was an additional $300,000 allocated to buy 2 brand new school buses that had to be ordered. And then through some serendipitous dust, we were able to purchase 3 previously loved school buses with the money that was allocated in the school board, if I'm getting all my facts correct. So we've taken delivery of 2 of those school buses, and another one is on the way. But the 2 school buses that we spent $300,000 or that neighborhood on won't be here until February. So if we only needed 3 school buses to begin with, because there was 1 allocated in the budget and we were ordering 2 brand new ones, we now have 5 school buses. So the math is kind of getting a little fuzzy in my head. So I'm not clear on why we can't resell the 2 that are due in February and be happy with the 3 that we bought that were previously loved, and put the money that we would receive from selling the 2 brand new school buses that will arrive in February to help cover the offset that we had when we didn't have the tax increase on the restaurants. A lot of information floating around in my head. I hope I got it all in the right order. But it seems to me that just because you can doesn't mean you should. So I think there's some room in the school bus situation to rearrange some things so that the taxpayers don't bear the burden of having 5 school buses when we really set out to have 3. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
Hi, Sheila Gressinger, Hampton District. I just want to talk a little bit addressing the schools. In my opinion, the school's purpose, I just took these notes today, the school's purpose is to send educated, thinking students into the world prepared for whatever life path they choose, whether it's college or tech skills or the trades, which are critical to our society's well-being. We need, yes, college-educated kids, but we also need a balance of plumbers, technicians, and all kinds of things, which we have at our school. Because I remember 20 years ago, I was doing substitute teaching here. They had the culinary arts. We were just so excited because they would bring the treats to the teacher's lounge, and we would get all kinds of really good chocolate and cookies and stuff. So we've had that all along. And the other thing I want to do is give a shout out for the hands-on that our Dr. Grimsley does, because last year when we were talking about the need for school buses, she took the training and she became a school bus driver. And so by golly, we've got a person who's a totally all-round person looking out for the total experience that our schools have. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, not seeing any more hands in the courtroom. There are multiple people on Zoom. If you wish to speak, please raise your Zoom hand and be recognized. All right, not seeing any Zoom hands. I'll close the public comment and we can move on to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll put forward a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Going into old business. Number 1, Chester Gap Volunteer Fire Department Paid Provider Program. Mr. Whitson?
Sure, I can jump in on this. This was a major topic of discussion at last night's Public Safety Committee meeting. So if you'll just bear with me, I'll catch you all up on where things stand. So you'll recall that our board, following a unanimous recommendation from the Public Safety Committee, of which I'm the chair, agreed to allocate $45,000 of additional Rappahannock County funds to extend the paid provider program through December 2025 at Chester Gap. And this was done in response to a decision by the Warren County Board of Supervisors to redirect, we'll say, their Chester Gap funding of the paid provider program there to one of their own initiatives and stations. The idea being that the idea of our agreement to extend or to cover that shortfall in funding created from the Warren County Board, that the Warren County Board is likely going to change in composition come election day in November. So with the hope of buying some time, our board, I think appropriately, made the decision to cover that funding gap for the fourth quarter 2025, which is second quarter of fiscal year 2026. Mr. Curry wrote a very fact-based memorandum to Warren County that included some of the ground rules that both the Public Safety Committee and our board put in place with regard to how Chester Gap, number one, would be dispatched, and number two, how Chester Gap as a fire company comprised of both paid and volunteer providers would staff calls within Warren County. And those ground rules, I think, were a logical outgrowth of the fact that we were put in a position where we're covering this funding gap created by a Board of Supervisors decision out of Warren County. Once that directive came out of our recent board decision and was issued to Warren County, it became apparent that from an operational perspective, there were some tweaks that needed to be made so that this generally mutually beneficial arrangement with Warren County could continue without disrupting the preservation of public safety, both in Rappahannock County, where Chester Gap serves well, and also in their Chester Gap's first due area in Warren County. So to that end, Ms. Donahue, Chief Brown, and I met with the Assistant Fire Chief in Warren County to talk through and primarily to listen to what tweaks would need to be made to these ground rules that our board, again, sensibly laid out to say, yes, we'll cover the funding gap, but these are the rules that are going to apply. The tweaks are driven by the fact that if we were to hold strong to the idea that mutual aid calls would have to be dispatched through Rappahannock County, Warren County Assistant Fire Chief's position is that that would add a lot of time to their responses to mutual aid calls. And his ask of us was, rather than deleting Chester Gap from all of the dispatch system protocols in Warren County, which Chester Gap shows up in about 1,500 call lineups within the Warren County dispatch system, recognizing that the Warren County Board's composition likely is going to change, hopefully in the favor of Chester Gap funding come November. He asked respectfully that we would, for the time being, get back to a business as usual operation from a dispatch perspective, so that both automatic and mutual aid calls where Chester Gap is dispatched would still be run through Warren County. And then second, Chief Brown asked to retain the authority from his position to make staffing decisions. So through all of that, a couple of things. Number one, Warren County has agreed that anytime Chester Gap is dispatched on a call, they will automatically dual dispatch, so that if Chief Brown, from his position as Chief of Company 9, says that he doesn't have the available staff to run a call in Warren County, then Warren County will automatically be calling in a different Warren County company to fill. So that's a helpful adjustment on the Warren County side. The second thing that is not going to change is Chief Brown's made it clear that, and this is one of the ground rules that we agreed on here at our board, is that he would not station fill in Warren County with any paid providers. He wants to maintain the discretion, if volunteers are available under extreme circumstances, to offer station fill support with volunteers only if needed. All of this said, last night at the Public Safety Committee meeting, recognizing that the political winds in Warren County are shifting, again, hopefully in our direction and in our favor, to get us through to the end of the year, we refined the language of this decision to cover fourth quarter funding from Rappahannock County to say that all automatic and mutual aid calls will be dispatched through Warren County, and that staffing decisions are at the discretion of the chief. And so it was a three-part change, I think, overall to what Mr. Curry had communicated following our last board meeting. The three-part change being automatic mutual aid dispatch to Warren County. Chief Brown will retain staffing decision-making authority. And
The third part was the money, so it was really a two-part
Yeah,
change.
it was a
One
two-part
part
change, and
affirmation.
that's right. The third part was just, again, to cover the funding for Q4. So the Public Safety Committee did decide to take action, and so we did have a vote unanimous to cover the funding, recommend to us to cover the funding for Q4. All calls will be dispatched through Warren County, and Chief Brown will hold the discretion for staffing on any automatic or mutual aid dispatch calls involving Company 9. So with that, I would just, and this can lead to further discussion, I'll put forward a motion that we, the Rappahannock County Board of Supervisors, approve the county administrator issuing to Warren County a revised memorandum that captures the 3 points that I've just mentioned, that we will cover the $45,000 in funding for Q4, that Warren County shall dispatch automatic and mutual aid calls, and that staffing decisions regarding using paid or volunteer personnel on calls dispatched in Warren County will be the discretion of Chief Brown. So that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Embedded in that motion, is there the idea that only volunteers shall be used for infill in Warren County stations?
Yeah, and it's, I appreciate you raising that point. That was, last night in our discussion, we were gonna call that out as sort of a fourth point, but it's really, it's really in the hands of Chief Brown, and that embedded ground rule is frankly already reflected in the idea of putting personnel decisions and personnel allocation authority in Chief Brown's hands. So we stopped short of calling that out in particular, because that along with the idea of Warren County doing dual dispatch anytime Chester Gap comes up is really a minor point that's already reflected in the three major thrusts of what the Public Safety Committee agreed to last night.
And Chief Brown had offered that up even before we started voting, that
That's
was
right.
what he was going to be doing.
I just don't understand why that wasn't explicitly included in the ground rules then. I mean, from my perspective, and forgive me for playing devil's advocate,
Sure.
but if I'm a Warren County supervisor, I'm feeling pretty good right now.
Absolutely.
Because when we started this agreement with Warren County, we overpaid the first year by about $20,000. And Rappahannock never came back to Warren County counterparts and said, hey guys, our taxpayers are very savvy, and we all know we overpaid on year one because we went 50-50 when the call volume was 60-40. And we never went back to the table with Warren County to recoup that money in any tangible or intangible form. Now we've got another agreement in front of us where very graciously this board agreed last month to 100% fund this program, which without doubt benefits Warren County taxpayers disproportionately to our own tax base.
Agreed.
And they are not paying a dime. And we're saying we have faith that after the election, things will get better. And so we're going to foot the bill 100%. But then come January, when a new board is seated, if that board is more agreeable to working with Rappahannock County, which is a pretty big if,
That's right.
what do we do about this $45,000?
Yeah. I think you raise excellent points, and here's how I see this, and I think Debbie, I want to hear from her as well, but I think we can agree that we have extended the generosity of the Rappahannock County taxpayer with respect to this paid program at Chester Gap. I think we can also agree, and you've well pointed out, that it is currently an inequitable fiscal relationship. So we're sort of, to quote Elon Musk, we're at a fork in the road. So I think, have to do two things. Number one, we have to think strategically going forward where Chester Gap fits into the Rappahannock County system as a whole. We number two, have to recognize that Warren County, and I saw this recently on a very tragic call up at Chester Gap, Warren County does, and Kevin Williams pointed this out last night, and I would be remiss if I didn't raise it, Warren County does provide us great operational support from their side, and they had a medic show up at a very tragic accident almost instantly, just a few weeks ago. So it's not as if this is a one-way arrangement. It works both ways, and I think that you're right that it has gotten to a point where hard questions are going to have to be asked. And it's my perspective that we keep the trains running on time through the end of the year. I agree with you that we cannot predict with any certainty what is going to happen with the Warren County Board, but I would much rather have us be in a good negotiating position when we revisit the tenets of this agreement than throwing a bomb on a potentially beneficial relationship that works well for the residents of Chester Gap and also the folks on the Warren County side who are well served by Chester Gap. So I don't think we are under any illusion that covering this funding for quarter four is wholly unfair. And I think that the objective is to get us to the end of the year. And if we find that the Warren County Board is not friendly toward a reconfiguration of our fiscal agreement vis-a-vis Chester Gap, then at that point, we are going to have some serious discussions here within Rappahannock County regarding how Chester Gap fits into our system. And we'll need to rethink what has been a mutually beneficial relationship to date, recognizing, and I appreciate everything you said, and I agree 100% with everything you said, recognizing that it is fundamentally an inequitable relationship that needs to be remedied as soon as possible. But I would like to just get us to a point where we're sort of clear of the noise up in Warren County, where we can have a rational discussion about who is paying what to whom and for what and in what amounts. Because as it currently stands, to be clear, Chester Gap is benefiting from some EMS cost recovery revenue that is born out of its calls in Warren County. Number two, under this automatic aid agreement, Warren County is funding about, I think, $45,000 more or less. That's separate and apart from the paid provider program. So there is some funding, but when you take all the numbers together, as Mr. Curry has done, it's clear it's not a 60-40 or even close to a 60-40 split on overall costs for Chester Gap to operate. But I think we are very much buying time, and then we need to revisit everything related to this agreement with Warren County come the new year and see where we end up. And in the meantime, we've got a great team and great leadership at Chester Gap. And I think the ask of us, both from the Warren County Assistant Chief, but most importantly, the ask of us from Chief Brown was to try to keep to business as usual for the time being without causing unnecessary disruption to public safety. So that's how we ended up here. But I hear you 100%.
I just worry that if we're in the seat of being the good guy, we're always going to be expected to be a good guy. And I know that we hope, we plan as best we can, and we hope for the best. And I think that certainly other things could happen that would be a lot more expensive than this solution. But I'm just saying, for the future, we have got to get ahead of this.
Well, I in my own defense, I don't think most of my constituents would think that on fiscal matters, I'm a good guy or a pushover. So, I mean,
And I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the Public Safety Committee committed to work over the next 3 months to come up with a strategy.
Yeah.
We're not going to wait until December 31st and go, oh darn. We're going to work on it and strategize what if things don't work out, and who knows what will happen. But all of our eyes are wide open. I mean, we know we need a strategy on fire and rescue anyway, and the Chester Gap Warren County, whether it works or not, is basically pushing us to something we should have done many years ago. So keeping it, I look at this as you could mothball the situation and wait until January and then try to start it back up. And in that situation, the effort to restart it with 1,500 touch points in a dispatch center is basically killing the
Yeah.
even
And
possibility.
it's the busiest time of year. They have us over a barrel.
Yep.
It's the busiest time of year for tourism. It's the most likely time of year for catastrophic accidents. A lot of bad things could come of not doing this.
Yep.
But just because we do this once
Yep.
doesn't mean that we should do this forever.
No, I think
100%.
we're all in agreement.
And I just looked at election day is the day after our November meeting. I would just say that I think we should start meeting with the elected board members in Warren County as soon as possible
Yeah,
after
Debbie-
election day.
Debbie made that point last night.
Oh,
so.
good, good, because I just, the way this is all transpired is really not good.
No, I agree.
So you all said everything, I don't have to say anything because
Sorry.
I was sitting here thinking, okay, what's in it for us? Basically, the questions you were asking. Mr. Whitson, I really liked the keep the trains running on time and recognizing, being good community partners, I think will serve us well in the end. With that said, 3 months, but especially the next 3 months, that is going to go by so fast. That is not enough time to really develop a strategic plan. So I hope, to echo what Supervisor Donahue just said, we cannot wait till New Year's Eve to say, okay, what are we going to do tomorrow? This is, $45,000
Yeah.
to buy 3 months, but with that said, I always like, who's on the public safety committee? Professionals, right?
Yeah,
I just
right.
want to
The
make sure,
the
like you
sheriff-
said, they were unanimous, so,
Yeah, the sheriff, our emergency services coordinator, 2 fire chiefs,
I just
Debbie,
like
me,
to
Gary.
point out that we do consider the words and
Yeah, I
wisdom
appreciate
of
that.
those in the business. But Supervisor Smith is right. What choice do we have at this point? So
All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. Community AED program funding.
Sure. Yeah, well, we're just gonna move on from the funding question for now. Mr. Stevens, who was here earlier, is moving ahead with the installation of the first 2 AEDs.
Yay.
And the weatherproof boxes are pretty awesome looking. They're extremely visible. We saw one last night. One is going on the outside wall at Settles, and one is going to go on the outside front wall at the Quickie Mart, I think right next to the front door. So those will be kind of our initial public AEDs from a county perspective, which is really exciting. I want to thank Mark Anderson and Margaret Bond for contacting me this month and inviting me to go speak to the Lions Club, which will be next Thursday, the 11th, about this initiative. It seems the Lions might be interested in offering some form of support. And so I will attend that meeting along with Stephanie Clark, who will be filling in for Darren Stevens during his upcoming absence. And she comes with a lot of EMS background out of Prince William County. Is that correct, Prince William?
I believe
I
that's
think
what she said.
that's right. And so,
And here.
yeah, and so,
ALS 1400.
yeah, she's one of our paramedics. So Stephanie will be she'll be the technical smarts on the AED front. I guess I'll be the emotional side of it. for lack of a better way to express that. But I'm excited that this program is rolling, and I think I like the idea of starting small. And then finally, I did receive a call from a gentleman with, I believe it's from the foundation side of Valley Health, and I want to thank Joyce Wenger for that introduction. So I'm going to speak with him shortly, and it's possible we'll get some support from Valley Health for this initiative. So thank you, everyone, for your interest and support, and we'll just keep plugging away.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Regional Fiber to the Home Broadband Project discussion. Ms. Smith?
Oh, I just have asked for this to be a standing agenda item. And I think they had said that they would start having cabinets installed in August. August has come and gone.
Yeah, I think you heard from the two people today on this. So VDOT permits are in under review.
But no cabinets have been installed.
I know that they, not that I'm aware of, I know that they have been working leases with property owners, but that's all I know.
Sounds good.
I did speak with the supervisor from Loudoun County, that All Points was 2 years behind, basically getting started. But she said that they're rolling and the people that are getting the fiber are very happy. So unfortunately, it took longer than anybody wanted, but they're happy when they get it. So hopefully we will be the same way.
Well, there's no update on the BEAD funding, correct? So there's still that funding shortfall. The request has been made, but the federal program hasn't approved the funding.
Right, the state has their plan. It was open for 7 days of comments. Comments were received, and now it's up to the feds to, I think, take the next step.
Does the broadband authority plan to meet anytime soon?
If we had some news to actually report, I think it would make sense. But until we start seeing them live in Rappahannock County, I don't know what we would talk about.
And there's not a will of the authority to work on the financial arrangement and pulling the interest funds out of the Warren County Bank?
Not that I've heard.
Well, I just would say that as a county that is struggling for funding and has lots of needs, I wish people would look at that,
Well,
but I can only affect myself.
Why don't we make that an agenda item next time and find out?
I think the bottom line was that we don't have the authority to do that. The authority has the authority to do that.
Oh, I see.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Well, if the authority wants to meet, I'm fine putting it on the calendar next month.
We should before the end of the year and
Yeah.
maybe.
Yes.
The individuals on this board probably shouldn't talk about whether the authority wants to meet.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll be in touch.
Although there isn't a quorum
I was
sitting
gonna
up
say, there's
here.
only two
There is a
people here. What
quorum
am I
in-
missing?
There's a quorum in the room, so
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just.
All right, we'll send out an email.
I hope it works out better than the last time that y'all tried to meet. I couldn't really understand what the issue was there.
I'm sure we'll get this one before the end of the year.
Sounds good.
New commercial activity and related matters, Mr. Whitson.
Yeah, I should probably rename this agenda item to just stuff that bothers me.
5 minutes to wind.
I don't know if Gary has any updates. I continue to get citizen complaints about the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, which I guess in town, which we all knew was coming from various press reports. But I know that the signs were placed in some cases outside of the town limits, and I know that some corrections are going to be made. So
This is referenced in VDOT's report at the back end of the agenda. Ben didn't mention it. VDOT has requested the town to fix the problem, and that hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Okay, and then you had mentioned trying to manage the illegal parking on the corner of Main Street and Route 622 Harris Hollow, that pavement striping would wait until the inn does its
We did
spa
include a
project.
comment in the spa site plan relative to pavement striping, the no parking areas.
Okay. And then the other citizen complaint that I've received from, and I don't typically bring up single citizen complaints, so when I say citizen complaints, I mean it plural, is that this new requirement to crawl along at 20 miles an hour through the town, and I mentioned this at a previous meeting, the whole thing really could have been avoided if the Inn at Little Washington itself put in place some crosswalk and then company policy that just explained to employees that wandering up and down the middle of the street is not safe and is not appropriate. And so I would just hope that our town government will continue to work with the inn to try to impose some reasonable order on pedestrian traffic, not only for the sake of our citizens generally, but for the safety of inn employees. I really, really worry that something bad could happen because it's usually at dusk and coming down Main Street, there are people walking all over the place. And I feel like the tail wagged the dog in this respect, and we ended up with a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, which doesn't really solve that particular problem. So I have no doubt that someone in town government will hear about my comments today. Maybe they heard about my comments last meeting, but I really think that problem needs to be addressed with the largest employer in the town. And next time when a wholesale change of the speed limit is considered, that the focus really be on remedying the problem, because I feel like this is a solution that was looking for a problem, not the other way around. So that's all I have on that.
Thank you. Next is the zoning ordinance regulation of electrical substations.
This is a follow-up agenda item for board discussion from the presentation that we heard earlier. And so I would look to my fellow supervisors at this time and just wonder if you all believe that this is a worthy matter for the planning commission to take up, if you think this is a preferable way for us to proceed based on kind of the public outcry after the recent round of data center discussions, and also with events in neighboring localities. I think this is the right time to do this, but I only, of course, want to proceed if the board is of the same mind and if you think this is the right way to approach this topic.
I would definitely support it.
Yeah, I think it was the presentation was great and your context was great. And if Art agrees that this is a good place to, I don't know if it's to begin and end, but to at least begin.
And it would certainly provide protection to those living around a substation, new substation, whether it's installed to support a commercial venture, industrial venture, or residential venture. Nobody necessarily wants to live next door, immediately next door to one of these. So it's reasonable to put some special requirements, the special exception process, and attach them to that special use.
Sounds good.
I like
it's good. Okay, good. I just, working through the planning commission, I just want to make sure that the supervisors believe this is a worthy use of time.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah, I like this approach. I like I like it.
Good.
Yep.
We'll move it toward the top of the list. We'll wrap up the lodging language probably this month and have a public hearing next month. And then I would anticipate launching this as a priority topic next month. And it seems like it should be able to work through in relatively short order.
I would think. Very
So,
good. Can you
thank
add that any metal poles have to be UMA green?
We can make it say whatever
Probably
you'd
not.
like it to say. And I would just like to add, sometimes I feel bad for Mr. Henry from REC, who is such a great individual. And I don't mean to beat up on substations, and I know that you know this, and I don't mean to beat up on data centers or transmission lines or any of those things. We just want them to look a certain way and be in a certain place that is right for our county. And we are certainly grateful for all that you supply to our county and the robust presence REC has for both special events and just on a day-to-day and during times of emergency in our county.
Yeah.
You all are a great treasure for our county because a lot of places don't have such great power companies. And it's great when our utilities work as intended.
Thank you.
you.
All right. So do we need to vote on that?
I think you can. I mean, you've voted and referred a number of things to the planning commission in the past. They kind of get there and get picked up. I think
We will work through them
the chair is
pretty
here,
good
so-
order. So if y'all think this is a priority and that's the consensus of the board, then we'll move it to the top of the list.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sarah, for coming to spend time with us today.
Thanks, that was great.
Board committee reports, rec authority.
So, they are in maintenance mode. They're in maintenance mode. September 21st, we do have a butterfly parade happening. So if you'd like to participate, grab your wings and head to the park. But the most exciting thing I wanted to share is they have identified a grant and applied for a grant that could potentially help with the playground project. Application's just been submitted. Like, I'm just letting you know that they are working to try and find ways to improve the park and build that playground and make a dollar stretch. So that's it.
Thank you. Public safety, I think, Mr. Woodson, was there anything else you wanted to?
No, I mean, the wrong way driver ongoing issue was raised earlier, and I just want to emphasize to Ms. Comer in particular that we're focused on keeping the data rolling in so that we can decide if this signage change at all these at all these intersections has made a difference or not.
It's good to hear from Mr. Davison that there are sketches in place for upgraded signage at Colvin, even though I was through there the other day, they're not in, but there is a plan to put them in, which is good.
That's right.
Yep.
And I would say the other thing for Miss Smith's benefit, your constituent, Miss Flink, who lives up in Old Hollow, Paige Flink, she is very interested after this last flood event in emergency flood-related notifications, and so we had quite an extended discussion last night, thanks to Mr. Curry, bullet pointing sort of all the assets or tools that we have in our community to respond both with equipment and information and notifications and et cetera, to flood emergencies. And, the question was, with our relatively unstable telecommunications infrastructure, how do you get the word out to people effectively when there's an acute flood event about to happen or happening? And, there are no real easy answers, but to Gary and Darren Stevens' credit, and our dispatchers, Jane Jenkins in particular, we've really stepped up the use of all these sort of blast text notification type systems to get the word
I was
out.
going to say, I think I get a bunch if you're subscribed.
Yeah.
Like through Rave, I feel like
Which is a challenge
get a lot of
if you live in
information.
a cell phone challenged area and maybe a storm has damaged landline infrastructure. And so that the next level of connectivity is a weather radio, which casts a really wide net.
Right.
And will alert you to many issues in many areas within the radio range, but it's not dependent on cell phone or.
Well, we had this discussion after North Carolina happened. If you really want to make sure that you have electricity and a communications outlet at the end of a major weather event, you need a generator and you need Starlink. Because after that event, as sad and tragic as it was, there were lessons to be learned. And in challenging terrain, I used to live not very far from there, very similar terrain to where we live. If you need a guaranteed way to communicate and power source, Starlink and a generator was the only way people were able to make phone calls out of that area. And it's incredibly sad. But if it's important to you, that's the answer.
And be on high ground.
Well,
Yeah.
ideally. I mean, you shouldn't be building places that don't make sense to begin with. And hopefully people don't.
Yeah, thanks to my generator, my Starlink, my house becomes a emergency shelter
Oh,
for
good.
all of Harris
We'll,
County.
we'll have our meetings there.
And then my question to my neighbors who've been mooching off my generator for 20 years is like, hey, 20 years ago you could have got a generator and paid for it by now, but that's all right.
Well, and
No problem.
I mean, I don't mean to sound harsh about
No,
it.
it's-
I just,
You took my role from last night, so that's okay.
I mean, we certainly do,
Yeah.
I think, go above and beyond, and in terms of making facilities available by having emergency shelters at the schools.
Yep.
And working through those kinds of solutions, we're doing more than the county has ever done before.
Agreed.
And maybe we just need to publicize it a little bit better, which is always challenging.
And that was discussed last night with our media partners. We're there, so.
Great.
Yeah, Gary did a good job of kind of explaining the cost benefit analysis that we all have to engage in when you make a decision to live in a rural area. And there are inherent risks, and you try to mitigate risk, but you can't eliminate everything. So.
All right, Planning Commission.
The Planning Commission met, we were supposed to meet 3 times, we met twice. We had our public intake for the comprehensive plan in Castleton. We held our regularly scheduled Planning Commission meeting, the notes of which are in the zoning administrator's report. And unfortunately, we had to cancel Chester Gap's Planning Commission intake meeting. We certainly tried to cobble together a quorum for as long as we could, and it just didn't come to fruition. And immediately got the word out as much as we could through all the channels at our disposal. And no one wants to conclude the public intake sessions more than I do. I wish we had been able to get them in, and I hate that people showed up unaware that the meeting had been canceled. So when next we meet the Planning Commission, we'll work to reschedule that intake and look forward to having that soon.
Okay, please let me know when Chester Gap's.
I will, and I made a point to ask Michelle to loop you in, so hopefully she did when the cancellation was sent out.
Thank you.
So sorry to those folks that were inconvenienced.
Fire Levy Board, anything?
The meeting to review the last set of bills is set for September 18th, which means the agenda is supposed to be posted tomorrow. There's been some communication challenges with the fire companies, resulting in some delayed submittals. So hopefully they all magically show up and are ready first thing tomorrow morning so they can be cobbled together and posted by the end of the day.
Thank you. All right, Treasurer's reports. Cash flow, please.
About $8 million, 7.960.
And this is our lowest cash point, right?
Looks like
This,
September, yep.
I heard $8 million, and I figure we're getting close, right?
yeah, and I think we discussed that the bills may be going out a little later than last year.
Should be this week.
So that means the cash influx will be a little later, which means the cash drawdown will go a little deeper.
Okay.
And so we might see another point lower than this month.
I didn't anticipate to talk about buses today, but Laura Grigsby brought up a good point with the buses that we purchased. And as I remember during our budget cycle, we talked about whether there were opportunities to purchase used buses, and we were told that there generally weren't, and those things generally don't work out. And so this board made the decision to fund some buses from fund balance. Knowing that the school has now purchased 3 additional buses, is there an opportunity for us to cancel the buses we purchased and return that money to the fund balance without penalty?
Question can be asked.
I mean, I'm curious. I think the school's need was 4, and we now have 5, or will have 5. And I was the one who broached the topic of funding school buses. I thought it was an opportunity to make sure something got done, that we sometimes looked at funding, but didn't always happen for one reason or another. But now that we know that buses have been purchased, I would be curious to know if there's an opportunity to cancel that order without penalty, or if there are penalties, what they may be.
I would also want to know, like, if we're going to make that inquiry, I feel like, well, first I would encourage everyone to go to the school board meeting when they have questions about buses, because that's they should know, right? But I feel like next year, the bus that Dr. Grimsley always calls Bluebird or Ladybird or something bird is being retired. So, yeah, I think we are one ahead, but we're really not.
We're not out of the need that each year there's.
Yeah, so I think if you're going to ask the question, which is a fair question that you just raised, I think the counter question to that is make sure you know what's happening, because if the orders have been submitted, she says they're due in by February. If this puts them on track and sets them up so that we don't have to talk about buses again.
Anytime soon.
I know I made that comment at one meeting and Supervisor Smith said, yeah, well, sorry.
But I think, I mean, Ms. Grigsby asked a very logical question, and I have to say that she anticipated a question I was tempted to ask today of Dr. Grimsley, because I'm grateful for the effort to go find lightly used school buses, but then I feel like there is a communications burden that then falls on the shoulders of the school superintendent and or the school board that frankly that burden requires them to communicate to us how this does or does not affect our decision to draw on fund balance, which has been a very sensitive and oft debated discussion since we closed the last budget season. And I would disagree with you that it's on us to go to the school board to ask these questions. It's on the school board and the superintendent to communicate to us in a cogent way how the money that we are appropriating to the school system on behalf of Rappahannock County taxpayers is being managed. And this goes also to my comment to the superintendent that every presentation she provides, some part of it should relate to fiscal matters. And this is precisely the kind of topic that should be addressed proactively and not left for our constituents to raise with us, for us to then raise with the superintendent or the school board. It should be communicated to us in an effective way.
I wasn't saying we should go to them. I was encouraging constituents to attend the school board meetings and ask those questions of the school board.
I misunderstood that. And I will tell you that Ms. Grigsby in particular, I have been quick to put her in touch with Ms. McCool, who is the school board rep for Ms. Grigsby's voting district. And compliment to Ms. McCool, she has spent a fair amount of time meeting with Ms. Grigsby, just as one example, to walk her through some of the minutia of the school budget, so I think it's happening.
Yeah, and I agree. Like I said, all I'm saying is if we're gonna ask the question, can those buses be pulled back? The next question should be, what buses are retired next year? Because I'm telling you that Bluebird, does anyone know what I'm talking about?
do.
The Bluebird, the Ladybird, they have a
Bluebird.
special name for this
Bluebird.
bus. They talk about all the time.
It's a
Yeah.
manufacturer.
Yep.
But Dr. Grimsley did say that the next bus on their list was a accessible bus, handicap wheelchair
Yep,
bus.
which I think is the ones you were referring to. There was a comment made in one of the Hunt meetings about something the state is done, and I don't know if it's already been approved or not, about buses, especially in rural Virginia. And I'd have to go back and find my notes, but there was something that was, I think it's been passed, that the requirements are not what we've been holding ourselves to in the past. Back to treasurer's reports if we're okay.
Sorry.
That's okay, I understand the
I
tangent.
just see the downward cycle of the fund balance and,
Yep.
Speaking of that,
Meals and lodging.
I was gonna say, speaking of that,
Oh,
Chair Donahue asked, Bonnie to put together a fund balance tracking chart so that, to keep board informed. And so that is attached within the treasurer's report and will be updated as the board moves along and might tap fund balance or some other influences come into bear to modify what has happened.
I just thought like our contingency fund where we see it, if we're taking money out, I want to make sure we know.
Yep.
Thank you for doing that, Ms. Jewell.
Can I, Bonnie's, I was gonna just send you a private email, but I'd rather just people hear it. What I would like to see, and I don't know if this information is at the ready, and I know you're looking at me like, oh boy, here it goes again, but. No, but, I mean, I could see this ending up in a budget, your budget question, compilation, and maybe we've already done it. But, I was just thinking the other day in simple terms about benchmarking local school funding here in Rappahannock County against other localities like ours. And I understand that the non-constant variable in that equation, of course, is the local composite index. And obviously that would need to be taken into account. But I think where I struggle, and, you know, I've heard some complaints from citizens recently that you know, my hardline statement recently of locking in school funding at $9.5 million for some period of time to see what they can do with the money that we agree to provide, as opposed to us trying to find a way to provide them what they're asking for. You know, I've gotten a lot of pushback and said it's just not reasonable. The school system needs more money. Well, no doubt, everyone needs more money, always. And so my question is, if we were to try to whittle down some analysis to a basic benchmarking of Rappahannock County, Virginia public school system as call it a 725 ADM school system with a local composite index of what? It's 0.8?
0.8.
And then try to lay out in simple form other school systems that look like ours in terms of population, recognizing that they might have different LCIs and recognizing they therefore getting more state funding. What does our local contribution look like compared to other localities? Have we already done this analysis?
I think some of this was done and is part of a series of budget questions someplace related to SIFT analysis.
Yeah, and it's also, it's in that long,
The two-pager?
yeah.
Yeah, what you'd presented, put together.
Yeah, it's in the long op-ed, and there's, I think locally we pay the 6th highest per capita, for funding, or per pupil, probably. I don't remember what the basis is. It's quite high.
Yeah.
And I think that's really a function of a couple of things that came up in the JLARC report. The economies of scale,
Yep.
right? proximity to the prevailing costs in Northern Virginia.
Yeah.
And so we're one of those rare, small schools that is also in the net of being in a very expensive area. And so we hit by both of those.
Yeah.
And I think those are both JLARC recommendations, happen to be long-term JLARC recommendations, to attempt to resolve those disparities in some fair way. Whether they ever get taken up by the General Assembly, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I'm tired of being the grumpy one on all this stuff. I really am. And I want to be constructive, and I don't want to upset people by, sounding like I'm a hardliner on school funding. I guess I'm just trying to get to a point where I'm comfortable with where we're headed in terms of school funding based on some comparative analysis, so that I'm not looking at it just through my own bias and saying, yeah, it's too much. So I don't know, if you pull out some of that, it would be useful to see.
Yeah, all the schools submit data to what is known as superintendent's annual report. And so it's usually a couple years behind, but we can pull data from that resource for all schools, which is helpful.
I know you're all busy. I'm just, if there's something that we could recycle, because I think a lot of people would benefit from a refresh on kind of where we stand. And if I'm just running the numbers roughly in my head, I think we're talking about per student, we're now at a funding level somewhere in the range of $15,500 per pupil, maybe plus another $3,500 to $4,000 in other funding per pupil, which would be a combination of state and federal.
Yeah, I think we're in the, when that op-ed was done, I think it was mid-14s where we were. There were some that were up in the 20s, but I think there was only 5 that pay more than we do here.
Yeah.
And there were 0 who received less state funding than us.
Right, which is
messed up.
While we're looking at the treasurer, well, you've taken it down, but while we're talking about this and the $300,000 for the school buses and that shortfall, it brings me back to meals and lodging. I'm just, have you made any contact with the mayor, since your letter? Have you reached out to him? Like, what's?
So we took action last time, so that I wasn't solo in this regard. And the action was that Gary would issue a letter to the town and say that we were eager to talk about the courthouse, which has, as part of it, a revenue-related component. And the response was, yeah, we got your letter, and we'll talk about it at our next town council meeting, so.
And that's when?
There was not a town council meeting last month, and so their next town council meeting is in September, like next week or something.
Next Monday.
Next month.
Right, to decide, I guess, if they're gonna come and meet with us.
We did have other items too that we kind of kicked around. One was emulating Page County and increasing the rooms tax, which I believe is 10% over there. Ms. Donahue had brought us information, or Chair Donahue had brought us information about that. I would like to know the increase that we would collect if we were to increase our lodging tax to 10%.
And when you get that number, we also, again, kind of like the buses, ask if we claw back the buses, what do they need to replace? We also remember we're in that special, and I'm going to use the wrong words, I already know, I'm just going to say it right now. We're in that special bracket category where we get meals, and it's just us and Madison. So if we break it apart, yeah, we might get 10% on lodging, but what is that lodging in the county? And we lose that X number.
Right.
Yeah.
Is the
From
juice
meals.
worth the
Yeah.
squeeze? That's the
So-
question.
It comes down to flexibility of the funds and the restrictions on the funds, so we can run that calculus out.
That would be good to know. And then the other number, and I know this is not large numbers, but it's numbers.
Right.
The other idea that we had batted around was an annual enrollment fee for lodging facilities. So, and that works in a twofold way in that it is an annual revenue source for the county. And it also serves as an annual roster for folks that are operating lodging in the county. And I would be curious to know if neighboring localities have that in place, and if so, what those numbers are and how they add up.
So it's a registration
That's
fee.
exactly right.
And so the board updated and amended the ordinance to recognize that authority, and there's no cost for that registration right now, but there could be, and that would be an ordinance amendment. We can contact some peers and see what others are doing.
My gut feeling is that local people aren't using lodging. I don't think there will be the sentiment attached to lodging that there was attached to meals tax.
Yeah, we had that speaker that said it wouldn't hurt her at
Yeah.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty much invisible online. People sign up and make their booking, and they don't know where all that money's going. So I don't know if my fellow board members are interested in chasing those numbers down, but as I put it out to the superintendent, I'm interested in her money. I'm interested in our money too.
Well, I would, and as a corollary to your excellent line of thinking, let's not overlook the obvious. Where in Rappahannock County is the vast majority of lodging related revenue being generated? It ain't out in the county. It's right here in this town.
That's true.
And if you raise from 2.5%, the lodging tax rate in the town with a revenue sharing agreement or an agreement that the county would impose that tax as opposed to the town imposing that tax, so however you want to configure the arrangement, our near to midterm revenue worries would be put to rest, period, end of story. So to say that it is important that we engage as soon as possible in a real down to brass tacks discussion with the town government about where the town fits into the overall revenue picture in the county it's an understatement. It is of critical importance. And I say that with all sincerity and appreciation for everything Patrick O'Connell and the Inn at Little Washington does for the county, but hopefully with an understanding from their side that Rappahannock County does a lot to create an environment within which the Inn at Little Washington can thrive. And so, yeah, 10% lodging tax in the town, revenue shared in some form with the county would be big time, big time.
Well, I just think if we're asking the town to come to the table, we need to take a look at our side of the house too. And,
Agree.
you know, I hope that the town takes the things I say in the spirit in which they're intended. I can't imagine what it would be like to be born a genius with a perfect palate. Like, what a gift that must be. What a gift.
Right.
Yep.
And we are very fortunate that
Yeah.
in many ways the county benefits from that presence already.
For sure.
In tangible ways. As I look to the future, I just see that the town and the county are like siblings. And we're at different points in your life, you really need your siblings. And I hope that we will be able to sit down and talk about exciting things for the future of us both.
I hope so.
I do wonder, did the planning commission ever discuss the possibility of an ADU being allowed to be rented like an Airbnb?
I don't think there's anything to prohibit an ADU being rented like an Airbnb. Once the time expires on the occupation, it's like what?
That is no longer in there.
That
That was
went
from
away.
when it was family apartment.
Okay.
It would be,
So-
right now, it's a separate special exception.
Right, and at that time, we've actually had an application, but the 2 years since the purchase time had not run out on the Chapman property in Sperryville with the red barn that we
Yep.
approved.
Yep.
They had put in an application for a special exception for a short-term rental. And I don't think they saw it through.
It just goes back to your, 10% lodging. Page County made the decision that they were going to have lodging available for event venues.
Right.
And I do believe that's an option that we have, should we choose to do additional lodging, but control it in some form or fashion. And then our larger event venues could be able to do weddings and not lose the income from people going over the mountain to stay somewhere, or to Warrenton or Warren County. Just think it's worth looking at. All right, can we look at meals and lodging? I'm always interested.
Of course, 750 or least.
Looks like it's first quarter data, just a little bit less than last
Closer to
year.
green, whatever green was.
Yeah, well, here, 153 versus 157.
Yep. There was a ton of rain in July,
So it's
so hopefully October, the leaves ought to be pretty, we should hope.
Well, in this stretch of weather we've been having, there were a lot of people out this last weekend, I can
Awesome.
tell you that.
All right, anything else on the reports anybody wants to? Legal matters, nothing changed, if I read it correctly.
No.
Okay, so we are now going into, if I can find it, matters presented by the board. Ms. Comer, do you want to start, or I could pick on Mr. Whitson if you prefer?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're at matters already?
Already, I flew right into it.
Yeah, circle back around to me. I don't have my thoughts together.
Okay. Mr. Whitson?
nothing.
Nothing? Ms. Smith?
I was traveling recently down toward Ashland, and I went through an area, I think in Louisa County, where they had the school speed camera photo zone with signage. And let me tell you, it's impressive. You tap the brakes when you see that.
Yeah.
Whether the lights are flashing or not. So I think that that will turn out to be a very beneficial addition to that stretch of 211 once it's in place. And also, I would be remiss if I did not mention the upcoming John Jackson Festival at the end of September, in addition to the farm tour at the end of the month. I know those are two occasions that many people look forward to every year, and myself included. And I hope this nice weather holds out for both those events.
Very true. Ms. Comer?
Yeah, other than echoing the farm tour.
Okay. The only thing I have is I think it would be remiss if I did not say that the $300,000 that we worked with the sheriff on for out of the security funds, courthouse security funds, basically benefits our citizens, because we didn't have to talk general fund, thank God, because what this goes towards is very important with security and voice over IP and all that good stuff. But just appreciate that we came together and could move forward on that project that I do believe will save us money in the long run.
Be safer.
And be safer. All right. That's it, right? Recess until 7 o'clock?
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I